morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome back to another episode of Subconscious, a podcast made by two friends sharing their catch-ups from two different hemispheres. My name is Joseph, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Colin. We're two longtime friends sharing the new things we've learned every week. We hope you enjoyed our casual chats while having a nice drink with us. Speaking of drinks, what are you having this week, Colin?
I am having a hot toddy, which is...
Sorry,
it's called a hot toddy. It is a whiskey-based hot cocktail.
Oh.
So you get like a shot or however much whiskey you want. You put it into a mug or something. And you add maybe a bar spoon, a teaspoon of honey and or sugar, just some little, like some sweet element. You add a slice of lemon, and then you just top it up with hot water, stir it up. Pretty, how do you say it? Warm and soothing drink for the winter months.
Nice. That does sound really soothing.
Yeah, it is actually weirdly nice. And depends also, like you can also add star anise, cinnamon, cloves when you pour the hot water in, so like you get the spicy aromas and all that. But I didn't because I'm poor. And and also like the type of whiskey you use also, will change the flavor differently. I tried this with a very strong bourbon called Wild Turkey 101. It's 50%. And it's very pungent, or like, the flavor, alcohol aside, like the flavor itself is quite a bit, and like one shot was a bit too much. Yeah. So I did it with like another Irish whiskey, which my friend had, and he very, very nicely lent me, was Bushmills Original. And it's a lot lighter, it's a little more flowery, and I thought it paired well with the lemon. And it's just, like my hot water a few episodes ago, very soothing in the winter months.
That's nice.
Yeah. I think just thinking, actually, I don't think I know any other hot cocktails other than like an Irish coffee.
Interesting. I mean, I don't really drink, so I wouldn't be able to. I'm not the best person to answer this.
Right. Yeah, I think it's just a lot less common. I'm not sure why. Oh well.
I mean, like you can have sake warm, right? But that's not really
I'm a cocktail.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe just like sex in the microwave.
Maybe the beach is already hot enough. We'll microwave it.
Yeah.
Hey, extra fun fact. The mocktail version of Sex on the Beach is Hug on the Beach.
Yes.
I thought it was so funny when I saw it.
Shout out to our friend Tim.
Yeah.
So today I wanted to talk a bit about music. I think we're both the type of person that likes to find new songs to jam to and like kind of listen to more obscure genres, right? That's not really pop and stuff. I mean, we do listen to pop sometimes, but...
Yeah, I don't even know anymore, Who cares? Doesn't matter.
Free spirit.
We're old anyways.
Cynicism aside, actually having a lot of fun trying to figure out like exactly why I like certain songs, in terms of like how they're written. But I think like a lot of people, at some point there's this like treacherous concept called understanding music theory that gets in the way. Yeah. It's like one of those things that like you really should know more about, and like you need to like put the time and effort in. But if only you had like motivation and time or like self-discipline,
only if you cared.
Just like learning Chinese, like it's my mother tongue, but like
for half of our listeners that hit too close to home.
Yeah, but I digress. So for context, my music theory knowledge is quite limited. But recently I've been like sharing and discussing songs with like a friend. of mine. Shout out to A Frank. And his like music theory knowledge is much more in depth than mine, and he was kind enough to share his knowledge during one of our discussions. So today I wanted to try and explain with the help of like this music theory like side of why a specific chord progression in a song sounded quite nice to us. Okay. So I hope this like it'll play all right. But yeah, so the chord progression goes like this.
Okay.
So the progression goes like that. And to me, like that third chord there sounds pretty tense. It sounds a little bit spicy. But it still manages to like resolve pretty well into the fourth chord, right? But yeah, okay. So I'm gonna try and like explain this for people who have like zero knowledge of music theory like me. So for simplicity, let's just start with a key, and the key of C, because I think everyone will kind of know that general sphere. So to provide a quick starting guide, the concepts that we'll need to understand will be scales, chords, and notes. And please don't run away. I will try my best to explain them simply. So notes are pretty self-explanatory, I think. They're like a specific frequency that you hear that has a characteristic sound. So like a C sounds like a C, a D sounds like a D, right? And like, and so on. And these sounds, like they have like a relative relationship to each other. So I guess if I was to use an analogy like having light bulbs, like they would have varying brightness. So you can compare them. So like, let's say bulb B is brighter than bulb A, but like dimmer than C or something like that, right? Like. They are of a specific brightness. And so what scales are in this case is a set pattern between notes of this kind of like relative relationship. So using that bulb analogy again, like let's say you have 7 bulbs and you've labeled them C, D, E, F, G, A, B. Oh, how convenient. And they'll have a certain like brightness relative to each other. So let's say bulb D must be like 2 magnitudes brighter than C, and E has to be 2 magnitudes brighter than D, and F only has to be 1 magnitude brighter than E. I think our editor Tiffany is like in the background, like, wow, he's so good at explaining.
Oh, yeah, fun fact. Fun fact again. Yeah. Tiffany actually studied music at the University of Watford.
What?
No, it's like just giving some praise to our editor.
Yeah.
Hidden hero.
And finally, there are chords, which are a combination of notes played at the same time. And the bulb analogy kind of breaks down here, but like, you know what, I'm just going to stick with it. So let's say you had someone positive. Let's call them like a major person. They needed like 3 bulbs. Like they don't really care what the 3 bulbs are. They just care that like the 3 of them like are of a specific like relative brightness to each other. So it has to be like one has to be 2 magnitudes brighter than the other, and one has to be 1 magnitude brighter than the other, or something like that. And let's say you had a kind of negative person, and let's say like a minor person. So they're also looking for 3 bulbs, but like it can be any 3 bulbs as well, but it's a different relative brightness to the major person. So yeah, that was my attempt at explaining scales, chords, and notes. So back to scales real quick. If I have a scale, let's say like C major, it has 7 notes with a specific relationship to each other. They can also be numbered from 1 to 7. So I'm just going to go back to that progression again. Let's try and play it. Yeah. So, okay. So there are 4 chords here, and they're in the key of C. And that first chord is an F major. And the second chord is a G major. And then the fourth chord is an A minor. And in the key of C, we can label F as the 4 chord, because C, D, E, F, G, A, B, if we were to number it in that order, F is the 4th one, right? Mm-hmm. And then G would be the 5th, and then A would be the 6th. And so if you're familiar with pop songs, which you aren't, but let's just say that you are. I'm pretty sure most of us are. There's a really common progression, like 1, 4, 5, and it sounds very pleasant and it resolves really easily. I can just play it now. It'll sound like, and now I've like been copyrighted by like every single artist on the planet. But yeah, if you notice there, this chord is, so that's the G major. It resolves really nicely into the root, which is C, the 1, right? Like, and so that G major is called a dominant of the scale. You just need to know the name of that and that it like creates tension. Okay, so back to that mysterious like third chord that I've kind of avoided talking about, right? So again, let's play that progression. Add a little extra time emphasis on that third one. So that chord is a sharp 5, which is the same as the 5 chord, which is the G major that we're talking about, except we've swapped the G in that chord for a G sharp instead. Or with that light bulb analogy, we've increased that bulb's brightness by 1 magnitude, which is like what happens when you sharp something. And so the interesting thing about this chord is that it doesn't really fit into our major scale format, because it's like not C, D, E, F, G, A, or B. It's G sharp. But it's like it sounds like quote unquote spicy to like, because it feels kind of different, but it still resolves well into the next chord. And so kind of an explanation for this is that the thing about this sharp 5 chord is that you only need to add 1 note to it for it to become another chord, which is actually an E major 7. So I'm just going to play those 2 notes. So I'll get that sharp 5 chord. And if I added an E on top of it, it's actually an E major 7 chord. And this is kind of important because when I've added the E on top of it, if let's go back to the scales. We've built the scale on C, right? We started at C, but let's say we started on A instead. If we built a scale starting from A, it would be A, B, C, D, E. And so E is actually the dominant of the A major scale. And so what's happening here is that there's kind of this like mini key change that goes on without actually like straying too far away from the overall like C major scale. And because E is the dominant of A, of like an A major scale, and A is like the 6th of the C, and in that chord progression it went 4, 5, sharp 5, 6. So what's happening in that little chord progression here, where it goes like, is that sharp 5 kind of functions as like a dominant of a different key. So you just kind of jump to a different key, but it resolves into the 6, which is part of your original key. And so if you go back to the root, that still sounds like natural overall. So if I was to add like the 1 after this chord progression, then it would go like it's still, everything still like resolves nicely, but it just has that extra little flair, even though it's like not part of the key. And so, yeah, I thought it was just a super interesting and conceptual way to understand like just a random chord that I felt was a little bit spicy. But yeah.
Spicy.
Yeah. But yeah, shout out to my friend A. Frank for explaining this to me. Yeah, I hope this I was able to convey it mildly well over like only oratory way.
Yeah. Tiffany's
sure diagrams would have
dub over the whole podcast.
Yeah.
This is music theory.
Yeah. So what time is it, Colin?
It is the time of the facts. And facts only.
Alternative facts. No, let's not go there.
Did you know only the king of hearts in a deck of cards has no mustache?
No way.
Yep.
Wait, I'm gonna go grab a deck of cards. You better not be
Okay.
lying to me. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Oh, how convenient, a deck of cards. Okay. Shut the front door.
I know, right?
What? Where's the
And-
mustache?
Yeah. And the King of Hearts is also like stabbing himself with a sword, like the only one.
Someone's really unhappy. Oh, he's holding it in a really awkward way.
Yeah, I don't know if he's stabbing himself, but like it looks like he's shoving a sword through his head, but I don't think that's what he's
Kind of looks
doing.
like he's just scratching the back of his head with a dagger.
Yeah. But,
Wow,
you know,
look at these little details.
why is that? That's the question. Why
ooh.
is that?
There's more to this. Wow.
There is more next episode, or maybe a future episode, because I was prepping this and I lost motivation. I had to do other stuff.
Okay. Well, I guess that gives you a reason to come join us next week, where we probably won't be discussing this topic, but
Yeah, maybe not next week. We'll do like some week later.
yeah, we hope you enjoyed this episode and had a nice drink with us. See you next week,
Night.
or afternoon or morning.